Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a tournament round I played at a course I haven't featured yet on this channel. It is the Pitcher Plant course at the Graham Creek Nature Preserve. I've showed some of the other courses that are on that property, you know, the Preserve course, the Prairie course. There's also another course called Pecan Hollow that I haven't played yet either. But this new Pitcher Plant course has been around for about a year now or so, and it was the first round of the Misummer Meltdown tournament that I played this year, and I won't lie, this one was a little bit tough. You know, it was a grueling event, and I did not capture the second round at the Preserve, but I was able to capture the first round Pitcher Plant, so I figured I would publish this video just because I promised I'd always show the good and the bad, and because I thought it'd be cool to show off a course I haven't shown yet on this channel at Pitcher Plant. And so without further ado, let's take a look at it. So here we go. Getting started, I started on hole 6, about 250-ish feet, maybe just a little less. Threw a great shot off the tee. Gave this one an ace run, actually. Was very near the basket, as you can see here. Flew right in front the chains. But just your classic first putt of the tournament, not committed low, and so ruin what should have been a perfectly good birdie opportunity to kick off the tournament. Move on to hole 7. And I just misjudged this hole's distance and how hard I needed to throw the disc off the tee, as I was pretty much playing this course blind. I had walked this course once, but didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge of the course playing this round at Plant Plantation out at Graham Creek. And so wound up taking a par on this hole, but still not taking any mistakes yet, so that's nice. Now we get to a tough, kind of like 340, 350-foot par 3. Very tight gaps off the tee, and actually laced the center one perfectly. But it was just too far of a hole for me to really hit the gap and get enough distance to have a reasonable putt for birdie. So taking a par on that hole, but that's totally fine. Then we get to like a 270-foot par 3 here. Big dog leg right. Threw the forehand perfectly. But even with a perfect forehand, I was still in circle 2. This is a very hard basket to reach off the tee. But was able to jam it, and so I am 1 under through 4 to kick off this round. So starting pretty nice as we get to hole 10. Or excuse me, this is hole 11. Hole 10 I bogeyed, but did not catch it on video. So this is a par 4. About 500 feet, but very wooded, so still places a par 4. Threw a good drive, but just didn't quite understand this upshot well because I knew there was an OB bunker short of the basket on the front side of the green. You can see it red staked here, and I definitely didn't want to land inside of that and take a stroke penalty. But I wound up not... Luckily, I didn't throw it far enough to get into that bunker, but I also left myself a really long, dangerous putt, so wound up just par on this hole, which, fair enough. Then we get to hole 12, another like dog leg par 4. And I just did not get that forehand to the left enough. And so now throwing 2 after not making much progress off the tee. But luckily this is a pretty soft par 4, so even with that mistake off the tee, I still have a good chance to save par on this hole, which... I throw a good upshot here to put myself in position to get that par putt going. Dangerous putt there. Almost fell out, but did get it. And so now we move on to a shorter par 3 here. But I just yanked my forehand left. And that was really kind of the trend of this round. Was my forehand was just so off this day. And I also got a real nasty kick left off that tree, so I am nowhere near the basket. This is another basket that had an OB bunker in front of it, so I was thinking I needed to go deep in the basket the whole time, and so I did throw a pretty hard shot off the tee to make sure I was deep, but bad tree kick. Have to wind up settling for par. Then we get to another par 4 here, about 420 feet, maybe 430 feet. But again, just these forehands, I keep hitting the center tree on the fairway instead of getting to the left of it. So just not really getting good forehand releases. That was actually a pretty solid, you know, forehand to get me back on the fairway. But now I'm trying to punch a forehand through this pine right in front of me. And I just threw it a little bit too inside and caught it, actually. And so I wound up kicking into a kind of a nasty spot here on hole 14. This is actually my putt for par now after a bad tee shot and a bad approach, and that doesn't happen, so I bogey that hole. And so now I'm like, I think maybe 2 over par for the round at this point. Another short par 3 here. And again, just kind of yanked my forehand left, just really having some release timings with my forehand this round. Releasing early in some occasions, releasing late in some occasions. And so I actually got up to the pin and had a wide open putt, but I was well within circle 2 and just did not get it there. Bogeyed the hole after that. Don't think I got it on film, though. And so now we're on hole 17. Just did not quite get enough power on this backhand, and so I wound up going in the woods early left here. Just trying to find a way to get to the basket to save par at this point. And threw a good scramble shot. Don't catch it on film, but I do wind up hitting that par putt to move on to hole 18. Kind of a short par 3, but it is water all around the basket, and I yanked this Envy way too far to the right. And so my car did give it to me on the edge of the island here, but I definitely went OB in the water, and so this is a par putt. And so I will take the 3 on 18 as we move to hole 1, a very short par 3, like 200 feet. Very tight and technical, but just kind of didn't have that one fly stable enough. So I catch a tree on the right-hand side of the fairway. Turn it over again too much. You catch another tree on the side of the fairway. So this has just been a nightmare round, as you can tell at this point. I am really botching these very short par 3s. And so that was a par putt attempt from far away. And so now this is me going for bogey at this point. And yeah, that is going to be a bogey. Moving on to hole 2. Short par 3. Just trying to do a standstill off the front of the tee. Shaved this one off. Needed to throw this one more outside with more power. Still had a circle 1. Or maybe not quite circle 1. Edge of circle, maybe circle 2. Catch the number plate. After putting low most of the day, I finally putt too high for once. So now this is a tricky, another short par 3 here on hole 3. Yeah, I mean, I've been hitting a lot of trees. That is true. Long putt there. Didn't even really give it much of a chance. And so just to tap in par on that one as we get to hole 4. Kind of an interesting shaped hole. Kind of like this weird dog leg left right away off the tee, but I throw this shot perfectly and have a tap-in birdie. And so now we get to the last hole of the round, hole 5, another pretty short par 3. I take this wide right hyzer gap, hit it perfectly. Maybe could have used something a little bit less stable, so I was a little closer to the basket, but I still had a reasonable look at it for birdie here from outside the circle. But just as I started the round, I finished the round with a low putt. And so this is how it all ended. I started on hole 5, had a stretch of pars. Definitely should have birdied the first hole I played. I mean, I put the disc 15 feet from the basket and missed a ET tap-in for birdie on hole 5, which was pretty sad. Hole 6, I just kind of misjudged the distance on it. It's whatever. The next couple of holes just kind of played out kind of as expected, although catching the birdie on hole 9 was pretty nice. That was one I didn't really know if I'd be able to get because it was a really tight dog leg right, hard to get the disc to the circle, but was able to hit that. But then immediately snagged a bogey to cancel it out. Went on a par stretch on some par 4s that really should have been birdieable. And really every hole on this course is birdieable. Again, there was a couple of holes that had some like OB bunkers next to the basket that made things a little bit tricky. And again, I was playing this pretty much for the first time in competition. I didn't really have any practice on it. So, you know, that kind of leads to some of it. But the reality is that my forehand was off the entire day. My putt was often low. I had 2 really undercommitted putts for birdie on the first and last hole of the round that would have put me at even par instead of 2 over par right there. And then I had some other chances where I obviously just wasn't really getting the throws I needed or the putts I needed to give myself a chance to be competitive in the round. And so ultimately I wind up shooting 2 over par this round. And as you can see there, I shot 6 over par the second round at a different course. And that was rated even lower. This was rated 861. I think my round 2 was rated like 830 something. So this one pretty much plummeted my rating, which is definitely sad, but I promise to show you the good and the bad and be transparent. And so this was a bad one, and it's been kind of a bad year, as I'll talk about a little bit more later, where I just have not been able to get things going tournament-wise this year. I was playing pretty well the first half of 2024, had some wins, had some solid finishes pretty consistently. I was seeing improvement. Maybe I'd hit a plateau here and there, but I was, usually showing good improvement and good form. But then I hit a wall kind of in the middle of last year where I started struggling, and I really am just still on that struggle bus at this point in time, despite putting in a lot of effort and practice, and it's been kind of demoralizing, but we'll wrap it up here now. And well, folks, that is going to do it for this video. Really, as I've kind of been talking through the video, this has been a tough point in disc golf for me. And I've kind of talked about in a couple other videos as well, where, throughout my time playing disc golf, over the last 4 years or so since I started this channel, I pretty much started playing when I started this channel, so you've seen pretty much the entire process. I was always used to slowly improving. Sometimes I would improve rather rapidly in certain areas. Sometimes I'd improve a little bit more slowly. And then obviously I would hit the occasional plateau, sit there for a bit, but eventually I would find something new to work on, put in a little bit of effort in a certain area, and then I'd be able to break through until I hit a new plateau. And I always knew that improvement would eventually slow down. It just makes sense. Like you're usually going to see your most drastic improvement when you first start doing something, because you're just learning the fundamentals. And so learning those fundamentals really do boost you very, very far, very, very quickly. But then once you kind of get those fundamentals and you kind of understand what you're supposed to be doing, then you still have to polish them. You still have to learn how to execute them properly. And then you're constantly adding and tweaking things. And that's where improvement can be a little bit more sporadic, where maybe you are going to hit a plateau. Maybe you change one thing, which allows you to get better at a certain area, but then you get worse in another as kind of a trade-off. And so I kind of understood, through other things in my life that I've worked hard on, that this would eventually happen, that I would eventually hit like plateaus or eventually hit tough points. And I wouldn't always play well. I wouldn't always go out there and throw all the best shots I know I can throw or make all the putts I know I can make. Like, especially with tournament pressure, that adds a whole new variable. I totally get it. But for the first time, I've been getting worse at the game. Like, in 2024, I was winning some tournaments, or at least in the top 25% of almost most of the tournaments that I played in. Like, so even when I wasn't playing fantastic, I was still capable of being competitive, being a contender in tournaments I played in, and even winning them at times. And I was well on my way to my goal of hitting that 900 rating. I made it to, I think, 894. I was 6 points away from the 900 rating that I've been chasing for quite a while. And I knew it was an attainable goal, and I still think it is. But now I see my rating plummet. I'm shooting rounds that are just so far below what I used to be able to play at. And it's been very hard to really kind of mentally get around that. And sometimes I feel like I'm wasting my money on tournament entry fees. Like, what am I doing? Why am I playing tournaments? I should just play casual rounds and practice rounds and do reviews and just make content and focus on that. And some of it's kind of taken the joy out of playing disc golf for me, and it's been really, really rough. And this is one of those rounds that kind of play into that. But I'm trying to again, show you the good and the bad, be completely transparent, and try to still work towards having fun again. Trying to stay positive, because I often just let myself get too frustrated. And while I can kind of swallow the first bad shot, maybe the second bad shot, the third bad shot, maybe the first or second or third missed putt, but eventually it just gets like a bowling point where it's just like, I just can't shake it anymore. And eventually I do kind of just get upset and get frustrated. And, I always try to be considerate to others and not, start screaming and hollering and throwing stuff and slamming stuff and, being a distraction and being, an embarrassment. And, obviously I have sponsors I represent, and also I'm not that guy. I'm normally a nice, friendly guy to get around with. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person getting angry and frustrated all the time. But yeah, this has been a struggle, and this is one of those rounds that just, I've had to work through, but it's all part of the process. And so it goes to this channel, and we'll keep fighting, and hopefully things will get better. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, even though it wasn't the best play. Hope it was still cool to see a different course and also get some transparency from me, and I'll see you on the next one.